Welcome back, all you hackers. I am so appreciative of you being here and continuing with your education. So far, you have learned what an HTML tag is. You have done some research. You know what Lorem Ipsum is. And today you're going to continue down your path of becoming a web developer by learning more about headings and paragraphs. So what you're going to do is the first thing, you're going to go to codepen.io. You're going to log in. So you want to make sure that you are logged in, and then you're going to click on pin. Now it'll take you to a page like so. Your view might be different. You might have a view like this. I'm going to change my view to have the editor on the left hand side because we're going to be dealing with a lot of length in our page today. So I want to make it easy for you to see what's going on. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce these boxes here because we're not there yet. We're not working on CSS. We're not working on JavaScript, but we're not worried about that. We're going to get there. That's later. We're working on the basics, and we're going to build a foundation so that way when we're going into those harder principles, when we go into other programming languages, we have a really set foundation in our basic programming skills and our HTML skills. So when we go to JavaScript, Python, PHP, whatever it is, we know we have the basics. We have the basic understandings. So what we're going to do today is we are going to introduce you into HTML tag headings and paragraphs. So what I want you to do is I want you to click on this pencil, and then you're going to name this headings and paragraphs. So that way you have it saved for later. Now you can either follow along or come back and do this afterwards, but let me just talk a little bit about headings. So first thing is I'm going to review. I'm all about the review. Repetition is key when it comes to learning. Is to create a HTML tag. First thing you need to do is you need to have a symbol, and that symbol is this symbol right here. So that symbol is the less than symbol. The less than symbol tells the browser, hey browser, I'm going to do something. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create something. So in this case, I'm going to create an H1, and then I'm going to say, all right browser, I'm stuck. I'm not creating anymore. Then I'm going to put something in here, my text. And then I need to tell the browser that I'm done creating. So again, I'm going to use the less than symbol. Then I'm going to do this slash. And the slash is Matt Damon running across into oncoming traffic. And he's going to stop something. What is he going to stop? He's going to stop the H1 tag. And then we're going to tell the browser that we're done with our command. So that is it. We have H1, what we're having inside of it, heading 1 is the words, and then we have the closing of our H1. Now you'll see this produces a heading over here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to copy and paste this a few times, and I'm going to make this a heading 2. I'm going to name this heading 2 and then heading 3, and then I'm going to just keep going down to heading 3, heading 4, all the way down to 6, heading 5, and heading 6, and 6. Okay, so you can see real easily that in HTML, if you see an H and then a number next to it, that means a heading. Heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, heading 6, right? All the way down. Now, on this right hand side, you'll notice that as I go down these headings, the size changes. So these headings are actually indicating importance. The H1 is more important than the H2 because it's bigger, and this goes with design principles. Generally in design and design principles, something that's bigger is more important. So that's why if you go to a grocery store and you look at a cereal box, the title of the cereal is really big, but then all the nutritional values is really small. Well, because they think that, it's super important for the branding. That's the most important thing. And then they bury the nutrition down below. That's a whole different subject. But the point is that what we want to do is we want to grab their attention with H1. That's the big thing. That's the most important. Generally on websites, there's only one H1 per page. So on every page you have one H1 tag. So think of it like this, is that you can think of this as being the title of the book. So you have your heading, and this is the title of the book or the title of the page. Then you have heading 2. Now there could be multiple headings 2s. There can be two of them like this. So heading 1 is the title of the whole page. There can only be one title of the whole page. Heading 2 is different subsections of that page. So maybe an introduction section, or the body section, the argument section, and the conclusion section. And then you have these things called H3s. Those could be like the chapter of the book. So you have the title, section, chapter, and then you have like a subsection or subchapter, and a subchapter, then a subchapter. So the idea is that first you have a title, then you have a section, then inside your section you might have multiple chapters. So let's say we can go something like this, chapter 1 and chapter 2. Okay? Then let's say in chapter 2 we have a subchapter. We have a subchapter of chapter 2, and then we have, let's say we go back up, and then we have a chapter 3. So you'll notice though that I'm not using all 6. I don't have to use all 6. That's the beauty of it. But you'll notice the principle is that I have one H1, and then I can have multiple sections as well. So let's say I have one section here, and then I have section 2, chapter 5 or 4. Okay, and let's bring these down a little bit to make it a little bit easier to see. Now, in these chapters and subsections and all these different things, we can have paragraphs. A paragraph is, again, the same thing. We have the less than symbol, a P tag, which is a P, paragraph, and this is paragraph. And then we close it the same way. We have Matt Damon jumping out in front of the P, and he's stopping the paragraph from continuing. Now each of these paragraphs, we can have paragraphs in these different sections. So we're creating a book right here. Now you'll see that this is kind of very small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my knowledge from last time. I'm going to go to Lorem Ipsum generator. I'm going to generate some Lorem Ipsum right here. I'm going to grab it. And I know I'm going quickly on this, but this is just more for learning, right? So I'm going to give you a challenge after this for you to do this on your own. So I'm going to paste in some Lorem Ipsum here, and then I'm going to just grab this one here, and I'm going to just copy it where I see this paragraph. And this is just going to build out our body a little bit, so that way we can see more visually how headings and paragraphs work with each other. So if I scroll over here, you can see I have a title, and then I have maybe an introduction paragraph, and then I have a section, and then I have maybe an introduction paragraph for that section, chapter 1, chapter 2, subchapter of chapter 2, chapter 3, and then another section. So you can see that it's starting to build the structure of the content. Now back in the day, this was really important. When I mean back in the day, way back then, 5 years ago. Actually, no, it's probably more about 10 years ago. Headings were super important for search engine optimization. Now, if you don't know what search engine optimization is, definitely do some research on that. Look into it. Now, don't become an expert. I just want you to know the term. So search engine optimization is basically the way people design content on a site, design structure of a site so they can rank higher on Google. So let's say if I look for homes in San Francisco, homes for sale in San Francisco, where these listings, these are called listings or results, where these results are on the page, that is the search engine result. So this is listed number 1. It's at the top of the page, so that has a ranking of 1, 2, 3. Okay, so back in the day, the way that you would get ranked high for search results in homes in San Francisco is that you would have in your H1 tag, you would want to have homes in San Francisco. Now, again, this is still best practices, but Google doesn't pay so much attention to this anymore because there's a whole thing called keyword stuffing, where keyword stuffing used to be is that if you were trying to rank for this, you just put in that term, homes in San Francisco, all over your page. Homes in San Francisco, homes in San Francisco, homes in San Francisco, homes in San Francisco. Well, I can't afford San Francisco, but anyway. So you'd stuff the page. They call this keyword stuffing, where you'd have the keyword over and over again in the page, and then that would hopefully get you ranked. But that's dead now. Don't do that anymore. All of that to be said, that at the end of the day, though, best principles are that you should have only one H1 tag on your page. Is it the end of the world if you don't? No. Does it matter to Google as much anymore? No. But all of that said, you are practicing best practices. So I want you to practice best practices in HTML, because you're eventually going to go into a harder programming language. You're going to go into JavaScript. You're going to go into Python. You're going to go into PHP. And there are best practices. There are best practices that say, hey, you need to use this once, or you should only use this once. You should use this once. Practice that, because if you don't have the restraint to use an H1 tag once, then you can really get into trouble later on when you're supposed to only declare one variable once. And I know that probably doesn't make sense to you, but just trust me. So we're practicing in this is we're practicing best practices. And best practices for HTML is that you have one H1 tag on the page. Now, all of that said, I'm going to give you a challenge, and I want you to do this challenge. And if share it, I'd love to see your code. I would love to see what you've created. It's a simple challenge, and then in the next lesson, I'm going to go over this challenge, how to solve it, and then we'll add on to our basic HTML tag knowledge, because there's more that we want to know about, but this is just headings. So here we go. This is the challenge. I want you to create a page that has an H1 tag that's on the top of the page. Again, that's generally H1 tags are near the top of the page. That with the words, hello world inside of it. Under this heading, I want you to create a paragraph full of Lorem Ipsum. So I want you to generate some Lorem Ipsum, knowing how you know, or using your knowledge that you know how to create Lorem Ipsum. I want you to generate some. Then I want you to create a heading 2 with a title, "This is awesome." Under this title, add 2 paragraphs full of Lorem Ipsum. Then finally, I want you to create another heading 2 with the title of "Coding is Easy." Then under this, add a single paragraph with more Lorem Ipsum. Once you're done with that, save that, send that. Let's see your artwork. Let's see what you have. Share it with the world, because coding is easy. You got this. Keep going forward. And I can't wait to see you in the next lesson.